What if love is more than just a feeling? What if it's a universal force shaping how we understand ourselves, our community, and the world? Welcome to the Philosophy of Love, where we break down the science behind love, how it influences our minds, our behaviors, and the way we connect with humanity. Join us as we explore the psychology of love as a driving force for empathy, growth, and understanding. You're watching the Philosophy of Love podcast with Juan Lee and Dr. James Brockington.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Juan Lee along with Dr. James Brockington.
Hello.
We're here again. The Philosophy of Love, sponsored by Clear Journey, which is a nonprofit that supports individuals that are looking for answers to life's challenges. We provide resources and education so that you can navigate life more successfully. I am the author of a book called Love Made Simple, which is the foundation for our nonprofit. And there it is right there. It's called Love Made Simple, The Guide to Inner Peace, Contentment, and Success. And you can go over to the website and clearjourney.org and learn more about that book over there. It's also on Amazon and it's on Audible. You can find it all in those places. Doc, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Juan. Doing great. Just getting ready for some weather that's going to roll in this weekend. But other than
So y'all gonna get it? Y'all gonna get it? We might. We dodging it. We dodging it.
But we'll probably get some of the temperature drops, most definitely.
Oh well, we still dropped in the temperature. So just to date this recording, you all, it's wintertime when we're recording this. And it's been a challenging week to say the least. Well, anyway, the Philosophy of Love, basically came from the book that I just was talking about there, in the sense of how I came to the understanding of what the love mindset is all about. Right. And Dr. Brockington and I have been chopping it up in the sense of basically the science behind love. And tonight we're going to talk about love didn't fail you, your mindset did. And that's really the practical application of understanding how love really works. And so tonight, tonight it's night. We've had some adjustments today, to say the least. We're going to be talking. Hey, if this is your first time here, hit the like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Clear Journey Inc. Go over there. We have a lot of things over there to offer. But also go over to the website, and where we have a lot of our core pillars are over there, where we talk about finances, education, financial education, relationships, health and wellness, and overall self-improvement. We believe that with the right mindset, you can navigate all areas of life successfully and reach your full potential. That's what it's all about. So let's get into it, Doc. It's that love did not fail. Love didn't fail you. Your mindset did. What comes to mind right off the bat when that title is presented to you? What really speaks to you there?
What jumps out at me is the research and the theory and system that a humanistic psychologist by the name of Robert Steinberg formulated in the mid-range 70s, early 80s, that spoke to the triangle that represents love, the construct that is love. Now, by design, love is what we sometimes refer to in mental health as a living, organic, vibrant emotion. Living, organic, vibrant emotion. That means that it has a sense of movement, it has a sense of connection, and it has a sense of exhilaration and excitement that is directly linked to its power as an emotion. And an emotion has only one purpose. That's to draw your attention to something that was not occurring a moment ago. By drawing your attention to what was not occurring a moment ago, an emotion puts you directly in the center of what is the crux of our discussion tonight, and that's the three components that are perception, expectation, and mental approach. Those are the three components of what we refer to as a mindset. Your expectation, your perception, and your approach to outlining what is your thinking, your critical thinking, and your reasoning that align themselves to the adaptation, the adjustment, and the accomplishment that is behavior all coming together. So when we raise the question of was it your mindset as opposed to love that failed you, 90% of the focal point in this is in fact the mindset that is being presented. The perceptions, the expectations, and the approach that an individual is utilizing in establishing what for him or her, or however you want to develop the love partnership, exactly that, the partnership being formed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we want to look
Look,
at those three things.
look, I tell you, you've already challenged our audience, everybody, including myself. You challenged us all in just being able to explain just what love really, really, really implies.
Mm-hmm.
What it really implies, and the very things that are involved in it. Again, this is really the science behind what we are so quickly thinking of it as just an emotional or feeling.
Yeah.
But man, is it more to it than just that. Um, and its thing about it is that how you are able to process that is what it's all about. So let's dig into when we hear people say love failed me, what do you think they really are describing when they're in this place of despair as it relates to love failing them?
There are two things that most commonly they are describing when they use the broad statement, quote unquote, love failed me. The first thing is the failure to actually internalize the meaning and the purpose of what love is. The meaning and its purpose. See, because if you don't have a clear understanding, acceptance, and acknowledgement of the meaning and purpose of something, then your perception of its viability will become swayed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say destroyed. I'm not going to say disrupted. I'm going to say swayed. It moves in a different direction.
And as a result, failure becomes an option.
And because of the result, the expectation is not consistent with the energy and effort that is being expanded. That's how the sway or the curve to it occurs. Now, the second thing that's taking place when that happens is, and this is the big one, your sense of safety. Your sense of safety.
Either
In other words,
emotionally or physically.
emotionally or physically, because they all coalesce, because it's the way you think and the way you behave, the
Mm-hmm.
alignment between the two becomes distorted. So now, two things have happened. The way I'm thinking and experiencing this is different from what I anticipated, and my sense of safety and congruity are compromised. I feel threatened. So I go into something saying I love someone, and because I love someone, there is this abundant sense of wanting to interconnect and be interconnected, which has now become compromised because of my safety issue, my fear issue. Now, we're going to be talking about a composite of emotions when we talk about love. And it's central to understand that love is only one of roughly 79 different aspects of what we call emotional congruity points. and indices. Of those 79, the one that has the greatest degree of significance across the board is what we refer to as fear. Fear, strongest of the emotional alerts, because fear has only one purpose: to tell you with specificity. No fooling around, no distortion, no distraction, with specificity. This is what you have the ability to overcome. And you know why you have the ability to overcome? Because fear defines it for you. It doesn't confuse you. Fear says, I'm afraid of fire. It's not saying I'm afraid of water. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of fire.
You know, that statement, you've said it so many times as it relates to what fear does. It makes things extremely clear to you.
Oh,
It
yeah.
should. It should make things very clear to you. What do you think the obstacles are when people aren't clear with fear? Because how is it that we do not respond to it positively?
We don't respond to it with effectiveness.
That's the right word.
Yeah, that's
Effectiveness.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because your
Effectiveness.
any response to an emotion. Let me clarify it for you. Any response to an emotion is positive because it draws your attention to something. And anything in your thought mechanism, and when I'm talking about thought mechanism, I'm talking about thinking, critically thinking and reasoning.
Mhm.
Anything that draws your attention to an issue that is challenging those three steps is a positive perspective to engage from.
Now, see, that's so very interesting because it's at that point where we choose to either engage it or not.
And therein lies the ineffective way in which we have acknowledged the separation that exists between the way we emote, connect, and the way we feel, the meaning and purpose of that connection. See, this is the point where emotion and feeling are not the same thing. Emotion only draws your attention to something that is occurring at this specific moment. This is why we call it situational awareness. At this specific moment, that is challenging your belief system. Up until this point in time, you believed something, now it's being challenged.
But yet, here's the thing, but you've got to be willing to engage it.
And you have to, by being willing to engage, do three very critical things: understand this, accept what you understand, and acknowledge its meaning and purpose to you. That is how fear limits the distortion of what is occurring in your life. Because you see, fear tells you exactly what it is you're dealing with. The moment you know what you are dealing with in psychology is called a fixed point. And the moment you know what you are dealing with, this fixed point becomes the central orientation to your understanding, awareness, and acceptance thereof. This is what you focus your attention on.
Or should
Or
focus
should.
your attention on.
Because see, if you don't understand and accept that, then you can't complete the triangle that is acknowledgement.
Well, and the thing about it is that point where you say that, it's so amazing because we gather a perception that if something that's emotional has to be satisfying, well, not satisfying, but
No, see, I want you to use the word satisfying.
well, but it's not really, because here's the point. Because emotions, you're saying that emotions have one purpose,
Only one purpose.
and that is to draw your attention.
With specificity. With specificity.
But here's the thing. When it draws your attention, it has a purpose for drawing your attention.
It does.
It has a purpose for drawing your attention.
That's exactly correct.
And but yet if we don't acknowledge that the purpose, and we either run from it or deny it. I mean, because this is really, it really goes to the next steps that you're talking about, because it's the acceptance part that comes in there. But it's at that point where if I don't want this, if I don't want to acknowledge this,
No, if I don't want to accept this.
if I don't want to accept this,
Right.
then the emotion has not done what it was intended for it to do.
The
Would you
emotion,
say?
what the emotion has done specifically what it has been designed to do, and that is to give you a choice. A choice between, and everything in life is the binary, this or that. You see, that's the significance of being in what, again, I refer to as that in situational awareness or in conscious moment. You are in the consciousness of this moment. So that means that everything about this moment that defines this moment has been brought to your level of awareness. That is what an emotion does.
And see, what you just snuck in there is your level of awareness.
Your level of awareness.
Your level of awareness could still make your actions less than satisfactory due to your own level of awareness.
And that is precisely what the elevation of your consciousness becomes in that second component in thinking, critical thinking.
And you can only gather that through knowledge.
And through the understanding
Right.
of that knowledge. Look at what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I understand, and that is what knowledge is, the moment I understand the meaning and purpose of the conditions and their limitations, is the moment I have defined this circumstance and this situation.
But that is subjective, though, isn't it?
It's subjective until the acceptance.
Well, no, even at the acceptance, isn't it subjective?
Once it's at the acceptance level, then your perception of its meaning and purpose has been clarified for you. Remember, this is the binary.
Okay, but I mean, I get you what you're saying. But it's individualized because it's at my level of understanding.
And who are we talking about? You, the individual.
Right. So what I'm saying is that even though this process goes through, the triangle goes through, I go through all of it. The way you emote could be different than the way I emote.
And because of the differences that exist between the way you emote and the way I emote, the feeling of the necessity for clarity in communication is what links us together. This is what is called first contact.
Wow.
In communication, we refer to it as the art of communication. Art being active, responsive teaching. I'm actively, responsively teaching myself to, with efficacy and effectiveness, hear the meaning and purposing of your words, internalize the intensity and the clarity of your emotional acknowledgement, your emotional alertness, and the feeling that is being facilitated by that. That is why the triangle of your perception, your acknowledgement of meaning and purpose now becomes for you the mental approach. That is the bonding that comes from the construct of love. This is the organic and vibrance now fulfilling the purpose of the emotional alertness. And see, that's the logical thinking of it.
That
That's
that you have put together several of our conversations in just this last couple minutes. Where you everything that you've said before in context in something else,
right.
in other contexts. But this was actually the ABCs of being able to really understand exactly how we get to the science behind love, behind it. That's how we get here. And the actual processes that we have to go through so that love doesn't fail, because it's very proactive and intentional if you know what it is you're doing.
And you, through knowing what it is you are doing, and here's the killer, accept the accountability and responsibility for what it is you're doing. That's the binary between the choice that is now the decision. People will tell you, they'll argue until they're lavender in the face, that your decisions matter. It is your choice that is far more significant than your decision, because your choice is the clarification of the meaning and purpose of what you are going to commit yourself to by the action you take. The decision is just a commitment. The decision is just the dominoes that you have lined up, so that when you hit them, they fall in the pattern you have chosen. You choose that pattern. Nobody else chooses that pattern.
It's absolutely amazing the words in which you use that reinforce what love really means and how you demonstrate it in a day-to-day application you are practically applying it where it's being manifested in what you're doing, daily actions. And that's amazing, because, if we don't see love as a commitment in the processes of what you've done, because it's that choice to choose. I don't know if people have heard me say this before. I say love has three characteristics, and we talk about it being I call it a chameleon, but it's basically it's change. It adapts. Love adapts. Yeah. And then love also is a conduit, but ultimately love is a choice. And that choice is the thing that you're talking about. After you've gone through this process, ultimately you're heading to that choice to be able to make that decision, to be committed to what you choose, to that choice. And when love is that choice, now it's the thing that you are going to respond to and also be committed to in your actions. And that's where we ultimately are trying to get here. And so when the question is, love didn't fail you, your mindset did. Mm-hmm. It's that you were incapable, or you were not, or you did not understand that process that requires what you were intending on doing. Mm-hmm. If it was not in alignment with love, you could not be successful. If you weren't aligned with your triangles of being able to be critical thinking and critical, you were making some assumptions that were not sustainable.
Exactly.
And as a result, you've got to a point where it appeared, because you said something, that it was going to make it a fact or true, without the processes, and it came to be what it was, failing you.
And take this step and take exactly what you said, exactly what you just said, one step further by realizing failing at the relationship does not necessarily mean you failed at love. What it means is it gave you the opportunity to define what love is not.
Mm-hmm.
Binary. If I know it's not this, then it must be that. That is the singularity. That is the continuity of your understanding and your acceptance.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Here's what you just did, though. You just when you said it like that,
Mm-hmm.
and you fail at the relationship, so to speak, as it relates to love did fail you, and we're associated with relationships.
Yep.
There are many ways to fail in relationships.
A plethora of ways to fail in a relationship.
Oh, there are unlimited ways to
Yeah,
fail in
really.
them.
Yeah.
But to be able to understand that every one of those ways you could have failed at it,
Mm-hmm.
you could have been successful in it.
And this is why. Go ahead. You
with the understanding of you selecting what that love implies. You can make love be whatever it is, whatever that failure was. You can make love into that.
And that's why it's so essential that you realize that all of this is coming from what during our developmental stage from conception until roughly the age of 11, 12 at the latest, we develop what are called core, our central orientation to realistic experiences / emotion as a central orientation to the way we experience emotion. We develop principles, values, and beliefs. Those principles, those values, and those beliefs become the triangle that stabilizes our decision making or
Mm-hmm.
problem solving. Because problem solving is basically decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. Here's how I have defined, accepted, and acknowledged its meaning and purpose. And based on that, here's how I have structured the dominoes to implement the adaptation, the adjustment, and the alignment of my behavior. This is what I'm going to do. We tell ourselves to be ourselves, and don't be surprised when we are ourselves, actively, responsibly engaging
Mm-hmm.
as ourselves. So, see, this is how, when you realize in the relationship, and this is why the efficacy of communication is so significant, the art responsive teaching, when you realize in the communication aspect of this relationship that you are not aligning yourself. It's at that moment that that's not what love is. Love is about the alignment. Love is
Boy,
about the internalization of the alignment.
people say that again. People need to understand what that really means. And in future episodes, we're going to be engaging in understanding the significance of alignment as it pertains to the choice to love.
Precisely.
Okay. And it is so significant to understand that when it comes to problem solving, when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to life in general, because life is made up of nothing but challenges, things that you need to overcome and to make
Absolutely.
to get through, and to understand that there is a a system
Right.
that is internalized in us
Mm-hmm.
that allows us to see clearly how to navigate this thing called life if we are aligned to it.
And by being aligned to it, receptive to the meaning and purpose of that alignment. And that
Mhm.
alignment is always about clarity. You see, instinctively, 5 instincts are being played out here. The first is survival. We need to survive. And, biometrically, organically, and neurologically, compatibility is essential to our survival. Our second instinct is reproduction. We sometimes overemphasize it 90% of the time by believing it's about the biometry and the biometrics that are reproduction. No, it is internalizing a thought process of emotionally aligned clarity and precision in thinking that we are constantly reproducing.
That's phenomenal to be able to hear you say that, because so many people have no clue. And we
Right.
look at our environment and we gather out and come to our own conclusion that that's what it's all about.
And see, the environment is a manifestation of your decision application. You see, again, choice. We choose to sometimes be manipulated by our environmental circumstances. This is the individual who chooses to believe that just because somebody said to you, you're never going to amount to anything, you're never going to be worth this, you're never going to be worth that, started browbeating you when you were in your formative stage. Your belief system started to internalize that as an active part of your behavioral expectation. You tell me I'm not going to be anything, then I won't be anything. Now, the resistance to that and the anger affiliated with that can drive you to quote unquote acting it out, or it can drive you to the point where you start asking yourself, is this truly whom I am? This is where principle and value now get kicked into the equation.
Or the fact that you've stirred up curiosity to see that
And by
maybe there's
stirring
something different than what I've
and
been
by stirring
been
up the
taught.
curiosity, here's where you satisfied your third instinct, emotional gratification. I'm curious now about what has drawn me to this. Remember, emotion is designed to tell you specifically the difference between where you were a moment ago and where you are now. Situational awareness.
Let me ask you a question. When you say, and let's be clear so people understand,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about where you are intellectually, mentally.
Intellectually, physically, biometrically. Tie it all
Okay,
together.
but my point is that
Mm-hmm.
you've got to engage your mind to be able to recognize that what that emotion is doing is it's arresting your attention. It's arresting your attention
Exactly.
emotionally, physically, spirit. All of these things is the emotions is arresting your attention. Now, it is essential that from that arresting that you get to the point of alignment for success in your own experience.
Within the construct that you build. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we call it construct. I want you to see building something.
Mm-hmm.
Within the construct you build, that becomes your axiom, your truth of acceptance and acknowledgement. This is what Jean Piaget, the cognitive psychologist, defined as operational thinking. operationalizing your thinking. You're making your thinking have a meaning and a purpose. That is cognition. That is the process of assigning meaning and purpose to your thoughts. Because the moment I understand, accept, and acknowledge the meaning and the purpose of my thoughts, I am clarifying the emotionalized intensity I will feel as I move forward. This is the point where emotion has now become feeling. That is what's motivating me to engage in this. My fourth instinct is my interactive mindfulness, the alignment of my mind and my body as a functional unit. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think is my defined meaning and purpose. So within that acknowledgement, everything that I do, all the way from deciding how my life is going to be facilitated to the selection of the person, i.e., the partner that I'm forming in this relationship. And here's a clue for you. It's not the relationship, it's the partnership that matters. It's not the relationship, it's the partnership that matters, because that's where the communication is at its full application of efficacy, sophistication, and acknowledgement. Partners, we are in this together. You know, when I get to that stage, the active mindfulness of that, constantly having that on my mind, means I'm going to do the things that are necessary to be the things that facilitate the integrity and strength of that partnership. That's where commitment comes into play.
Yes, that's interesting that you said that. We did an interview just yesterday for It's Life, and we had a life coach on. She's a very well-rounded person. And we were talking, and she's also a relationship coach.
Okay. They usually
And
are, yeah.
and so it's interesting when you said relationship and partnership, because she was basically her angle as it relates to relationships are you determine what you want the relationship to be. It's what you're looking for.
Right.
And so it was very interesting for me, because the way in which she presents, and I'm all for it. She and I are we very much so eye to eye on this thing. But it was in the sense that men and women are in different stages of life, different areas of stages of life. And as a result, there might not be a relationship could be a one-night stand is a relationship.
Okay.
One night stand, and this is not what she said, but I'm deducing.
You sure? Okay.
I'm deducing. Because dating is a relationship. Shacking up is a relationship. Marriage goes a lot in line with what you're talking about, because it has to take it to the next level of becoming a partner. It's a commitment.
It's a pivot point.
It's because it's more than it's more than an acquaintance. It's more than, when we get into the relationship that's a partnership, there's more to this now, because there's a degree or the level of commitment that is necessary in this type of relationship. And when you said the relationship is one thing, but the partnership,
Partnership. Mm-hmm.
it takes it to a level of commitment, of we're in this thing together, where you can really see the value of the relationship at a higher level.
Yeah, and because in effect, what is happening between your third instinct, emotional gratification, this is where the communication is gratifying to me. I'm talking to, in my case, I'm talking to her. She's talking to me. There's a commonality in what we speak to. We now get into what Abraham Maslow talked about, humanistic psychologist, talked about in our hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
It's a pyramid. We build upon the structure and the grounding of each layer in that pyramid. First, there are our biometrics, there are our sense of esteem, there's our sense of social congruity, and then ultimately we get to that point where there is a self-awareness and a self-alignment and what is ultimately called self-actualization. But I don't want to get us too caught up in that, because I want to simply say this. When we're talking about that pivot point between where the relationship now becomes quote unquote a partnership, what we have done, as Maslow would say, we've separated what it is we want from what we need. You can argue until you are lavender in the face about what it is you want, but you'll never get it until you establish what you need. That's the struggle that identifies for you the transition point, or you heard me say a moment ago, the pivot
Mhm.
away from a relationship into a partnership. Because that partnership is what is supposed to be. And I use supposed to be loosely because we're going to talk about what happens. It's supposed to be where all your needs are now satisfied.
That
All
is
your
so,
needs are
that is,
now legitimized. You see, so satisfaction means legitimized.
and so interesting there, because the way you get there is to get to a point where you you can, here's the point. Let me just tell you, you can't just trip, fall, and stumble there.
No, no, no,
I
no,
mean, you just can't trip.
no,
You just can't. You can't just fall
no,
over backwards and
no,
get there.
no, 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 no. Now take it a step further. You just said why it's not love that fails you. It's the mindset. See, it's the mindset. If the mindset is I can stumble, trip, fall like a blind man groping for, my keys under a light. Okay, never gonna see the keys. You're blind. I'm groping. No, you don't trip and fall. There is a methodical process that is the clarity and the purposing of the way you think, critically think, and reason. Because you are now taking what it is that you've internalized as the difference between what it is you want and what you need, which is the conditions and the limitations. You have acknowledged their purpose, and by acknowledging their purpose, you've accepted your sense of commitment to that purpose and that meaning.
And as a result, you are looking for somebody specifically alignment. Here's that a word, alignment.
There's that alignment.
Alignment with those things that you've already determined about yourself.
And look at how communication emerges as that active, responsive teaching, that art of first contact. You and I are sitting there and we are discovering, is there a commonality? Is there a centrality? Is there a connectivity? Is there, and take it a step further, because what it ultimately becomes is an interactive connectivity.
Mhm.
Interactively. We are interactively engaging in a fluidic sense, constantly fluid, sense of growth and development. This is what longevity now becomes as your fifth instinct transition and transformation. You transition away from the doubt, the insecurities, and the uncertainties, and it transforms your entire perception of whom you are in this thing called life. That's the philosophy that love brings to you. Because here's the kicker, we know that love is a living, organic, vibrant emotion. We now know from your book, we now know that life is a logical, integrated, fluid environment. It logically integrates you into something that is fluidic. It's constantly moving,
Mm-hmm.
growing, and developing, and it's always, always going to be about your environment. What circumstance or situation do you find yourself in?
Yourself in.
Because the moment you are self aware and self esteem aligns you to that sense of self awareness, you are now self respecting of what it takes to make you the not who you are, why and how you organize, orient, and operationalize your thinking, but the whom, the mindfulness of what that means.
I'm going to tell you that I understand my book better now, having spoken to you, than I did when I wrote it.
Well, you
And
know,
and the reason, and I say that in the sense that because there were so many things that I still were lacking in my own clarity
mm-hmm.
of who I was, irrespective of what I was trying to transfer or transfer to others through the
To
book.
others. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what you've done, I don't know, is a collectively throughout our conversations has allowed me, but this was an aha moment for me, was to understand how intricately love wove me into getting to understand myself better. Because I'll be honest with you, I had to get to where I was to be able to get to where I am.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And short of me being where I was, I don't think this conversation would have had a light bulb experience. I don't, and so I only say that to
Mm-hmm.
say that this is a ongoing process.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for someone to hear this conversation, this is some deep stuff. This is some deep stuff. And I want you to understand that the more curiosity you have about wanting to know what it is you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know
Oh, no. Mm-hmm.
until you know what it is that you didn't know.
The power and for consistency in our discussion, alignment that is acceptance. It aligns you.
And that's probably the subtlest and most simplest way
Mm-hmm.
to categorize or to capsulize all that you've said tonight and all that we've been trying to share here, is that this thing called life requires an alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until we find that alignment internally,
Internally, right?
internally,
Mm-hmm.
and then present it externally to our environment, that we begin to navigate it successfully.
And here's the thing, 90%, the lion's share of that communicative process is going to be biometric, your body language, your sensitivities to the acknowledgement and the acceptance of the meaning and purpose in the exchange that you have with whomever that other person is what draws them into what is considered to be your personal space. And your personal space, for the sake of discussion, is hold out your arm, however long your arm is, that's your personal space.
Mhm. It's so interesting because you've just defined my example of a puzzle. You're a puzzle. You're a piece of a puzzle. And you only fit in one space on that puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are connected to you is your space. And they're specific to fitting to you. Specifically. You're not going to put a piece that goes in the middle on a corner. It don't work. I don't care how many times you try to put it there. It ain't going to work. You don't belong there. And until you decide to stop trying to make it fit, you will be so much happier where you belong.
And therein lies your acceptance of what it is you need as opposed to what
you want.
What you need. You need this, but you are spending so much time wanting that the confusion
and let's talk for a little bit. We got a few minutes. Sure. What do you think perpetuates that confusion of people chasing after what they want versus what they need?
Lack of acceptance. It really boils down to that.
Well, that's true. But I'm saying, how does our society perpetuate wants versus needs?
Our society, and then, I'm not going to throw all the blame on society, because society is actually a manifestation of a choice. We choose the society that we have. So think about that for a second. We choose the society we have by not holding the choices we have to the merit and the consistency of what the choices, meaning, and purpose should be. This is what Christ, standing on a mountain at the top of his voice, was saying are to be attitudes. These are the behavioral expectations. You see, that's all we want from the choices that exist in a society. Behavioral expectation. If you do, he made it as simple as it can be, because he had to deconflict some things that were being said that were not exactly consistent with what should be. We obviously will get into those things a little bit later on in the discussion mode, but on a mountaintop, the man says, the way your mind's energy facilitates your behavioral expectation is the formation of your need state. You need to get that balance right. You need to accept the conditions and the limitations you see now. You're arguing with somebody who should be the individual you sit down and simply discuss things with. You can't shout at me and expect to hear me when I'm whispering. You can't expect that I'm going to be paying attention to you after you drop a few choice words on me that influence my personal perception of whom I am. It amazes me. I used to sit there and I used to listen to those songs where guys were having certain descriptive phrases for the women in their life, and looking at how easily they wanted to adapt and adjust to that. Because that's the only way he can, quote unquote, love me. I satisfy that aspect of his desire for me. What about your own personal integrity? What about your own sense of expectation of how you should be treated? How do you reconcile settling for this when you can have that? You see the choice? It's always going to boil down to what side of that line you want to constructively be on, because those are your internal versus your external factors. And that's why this is so significant. Your internal factors challenging your external expectations and the presentations that are being presented to you. The only way that he's going to love me is if I do this on the first date. You said a moment ago, a relationship. It could be like a first date. Okay, yeah, a relationship basically is the interactiveness of two individuals. We're going to keep it clean, just the two. We're not going to talk about that other stuff. Two individuals that meet for a single moment in time. Because that's what a meeting is, a single moment in time. What we do with this, how we build on this, or how we distract from this, will speak to the longevity or the limitation of it, but it still is an internal and an external factor that's shaping the efficacy and the effectiveness of our communication. And if you haven't realized it yet, audience, everything is about your communication. Everything is about that first contact, the expectation of it, the acknowledgement of it, and the acceptance of it are all going to be pivotal.
It's this conversation has really clarified, or I would say clarified, the significance of how important it is to have some idea of what it takes to navigate this thing called life.
Precisely.
So many of us never put the effort to really try to figure it out in a systematic way.
Yes.
In a systematic way.
In a systematic way. Mm-hmm.
Because we all, for many times, we're up here, we're accepting of the fact that we're trying to figure something out for ourselves. In other words, we're accepting the fact that we've gotten this experience without any instructions. We've entered into this experience without any instructions.
Without any instructions. Okay. I am going to roll with that. And later on, when we talk about intuition and the internal alignment of emotional sensitivity, what draws us to one another, those become what are sometimes referred to as the biometry of our perception, what connects us.
Well, yeah, I mean, and simply stated, what you just talked. I talk about the fact that we have a need to serve one another.
Exactly.
We have this. It's innate. I mean, if we're not serving one another, we're falling very short of this experience. And so, when I say we don't have any instructions, is that many of us don't. We have a selfish mindset.
Yeah,
we're selfish to the point where, because we don't have instructions, it's acceptable to be selfish, because there's nobody's right, nobody's wrong, because everybody's out here doing their own thing.
And you see that therein lies the limitation of it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, but I'm just trying to just give some type of perspective as relates to Why? Because in this our conversation, now again, you got 30 years of experience, and I've been chewing at this thing for about the same amount of time as relates to from this love angle, but it's all about how do we navigate,
Yep.
successfully navigate
Mm-hmm.
this experience called life. I mean,
Yep.
so many of us don't even know that navigation is a part of it.
Don't accept, even when we know. Don't accept
Well,
how
I mean,
significant it
but
is.
haven't even been introduced to
Sure.
the navigation of it.
Yep. Yep. That is how ingrained. And when I say this, it's supposed to be ingrained. Your perceptions are. How you perceive yourself is a root metaphor of how you define your purpose and your meaning. And if you have been inculcated to internalize a belief system that says you are lesser than, then you're going to argue with that. And
Or
you're going to
for
have to
that,
reconcile. Exactly. You're going to have to reconcile that. And you're going to have to reconcile that in the context of challenges that are at the very core of your meaning and your purposing. That is where we talk about what is your self-esteem. Your systemic emotional link to the feelings. That is your sense of esteem. Your sense of esteem.
I'm sitting up here and I'm looking at your headline, your title, and we're talking about navigation
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you spent a career in the Navy navigating ships, which really is the practical application of experiencing life,
Exactly. Yeah.
because you are observing and being operationally aware of all of the things that are around you, making decisions, critical thinking based on that observation. And it just lends yourself to living a life of clarity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you realize that everybody turns around and looks at you and says, "Oh, what now, Captain? What do we do now?" Oh, really? That's me. Oh my gosh. I have to be in the context of that moment all the time. From the moment you turn around in that pilot house, that wheelhouse, and you say, "This is whom I am, and I have the deck," that means that every possible perturbation of what is going to happen to that crew, that ship, and that responsibility is yours. Because at the end of the day, the long green table is simply going to say to you, did you or did you not state that you had the deck? Well, yes, I did. Well, alrighty then.
There's no questions as it relates to who's in charge.
No, it's logged in the book. The quartermaster logged it in the deck log saying so and so, the lieutenant commander, ensign had the deck. So that's the first place we're going to go. You have that kind of centrality and singularity, a responsibility for everything that occurs, and it can't help but carry over to the realization of what that does to the value added quality of what you have heard me refer to as critical thinking. You critically think about what it is you're doing. Because that's where your ultimate responsibility and the accountability to whomever your partner is has its birthplace. The critical thing is, this what I really want to do to him or her? Do I really want to put him or her in that kind of position? Now, that's your morality, that's your centrality, that's your idealistic view of who you see yourself as, that's being presented to you too.
But the interesting thing about that, you're putting yourself in the same situation though. You're not putting anybody in any other situation that you yourself aren't going to incur also.
Exactly.
And that's ownership for everybody. I'm not asking you or accepting you to do anything, because guess what? There is no, man, we hear stuff that you've lived, in the sense of it's just, you hear stuff like the captain goes down with the ship.
Uh,
Uh, I mean, that's literal in your
yeah.
eyes.
Yep.
That's literal. That's not just a cliche.
No.
I mean, it's actually but see, here's the point about life, that what I'm trying to get at, because you have that experience as on the ocean, on the sea. I mean, you take what I got in the Air Force to a whole nother level, in my opinion. I mean, to be honest with you, because you, it fascinates me, to be perfectly honest with you. But in speaking with you and now understanding everything that we've been talking about, I'm phenomenal. I go on cruises, right? We love cruises.
Mm.
And the ship is, most of the time, is docked during the day.
Yeah.
It travels during the night.
During the day.
And I'm sitting up here going, I can't see my hand in front of my face. And yet he gonna go to a small island. He gonna leave this place and go to a small island 1,000 miles from here. And I'm wondering, I'm like, how do you do that? How do you do that?
How indeed.
But that is the phenomenal thing about navigation, is that you have so many variables that you are considering,
Mm-hmm.
that we as passengers, people that are just bystanders, have no clue. All we do is wake up in the morning at the next night, do a different destination.
Yeah, Liberty call for Barbados is at 0800. Yeah, I know.
See
I
what I'm
know.
saying? I mean, but these are the things that life, we miss though, because we have those nuances in life.
Yeah.
We need those nuances. And I'm using nuances as a sense of those things that aren't readily available. Those
Yeah.
things that you have to be critical. You have to know some things. You've got to be able to be self-aware
Exactly. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
your circumstances, your situation. If
Yeah.
you're not self-aware, you're missing out on a vast majority of what you're in, your environment.
That's exactly correct. And you will sense that, and that is roughly 70% of the futility that an individual actually feels it, organically feels it, when the quote unquote relationship fails. And this is the perception that comes back saying, well, I don't understand why it failed. You don't accept why it failed because you understand. You just don't want to accept. And until you get past that, you are going to continue to be caught in that web.
Yeah, I mean, just be clear. Understanding and acceptance is essential. You got to understand before you can accept, right?
Oh, absolutely. You have to understand. You have to see, because understanding does for you what are called parameters, boundaries. Remember, everything is excuse me, binary. This or that. Understanding is about condition and limitation. The moment I understand the conditions, I have defined their limitations. It can only be now what those conditions and limitations be.
But don't you have to learn what those limitations are?
Precisely. And that's the part of it. That's why we engage. That is the
Right.
entire reason for our communication, the efficacy of active, responsive teaching. I have to actively engage so I can respond. And by engaging and responding, I'm narrowing down the scope of the variables that this could be to the specificity of what this is.
Mm-hmm.
When I've taken all, it's like deductive logic. When I've said everything else has been ruled out, what's left is what it is.
And again, I guess a lot of this is what you're saying is that there's work involved
Oh, yeah.
in trying to understand why you feel that love failed you, instead of understanding that it was your mind that
That's right.
let you down.
That's exactly correct. See, your love will never fail you. See that if we want to make that the through line for the discussion tonight,
It
love
is.
will never fail you.
It can't.
It can't because it's an emotion. It can't. Emotions don't fail you. It's your interpretation of their meaning and purpose that becomes sketchy. But the emotion doesn't. The emotion brings your attention to what this is. It's telling you, pay attention. It's a flashing neon light. They're saying,
Choice.
it's like a buoy in the middle of the night that's blinking, saying, "Pay attention to me." Because
Choice.
this is show of water. It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You
Choice.
go to the left of me, you're gonna have a problem. Okay, I got you. I see you flashing. Helmsman, 5 degrees to the right. Let's go around this buoy. It's okay.
These are things that you got to understand. Where you understood the sea, you have pilots that understand the sky.
Exactly. They can look at Orion and say, we should be to the right of that. Well, okay, come to where is the Big Dipper? I got it. There's where we are. Navigator, and there's always a navigator. Everywhere we go, there's a navigator.
Here's the thing. Life is about navigation. And you can't get around it.
Nope.
And that's why, again, one of the things we do at Clear Journey is we help you navigate through education and resources with a love mindset. It's being able to navigate this thing called life.
That's it.
Again, look, we have run over our allotted time, but it's allotted.
Don't
because
we always do that?
Yeah, but it's like, hey, it's the time is not a lot. It's when we stop is what's allotted.
And there you go.
Well, look, hey guys, we appreciate you all engaging in this conversation. If you have questions, you want to talk about more about Clear Journey, or you have issues about tonight's episode, you can reach out to us by going to info@clearjourney.org. Just emailing us at info@clearjourney.org. Just put in the subject, Dr. James Brockington or myself, and both or one of us will respond back to you. We want you to know that it's not going to happen overnight. This conversation, the conversation is, we're looking for aha moments, those things that make things just a little bit clearer. Again, Clear Journey is what this is all about. Mm-hmm. And every day we want to see something a little bit clearer. And so hopefully tonight's conversation has allowed it for that. But it's about perception.
That's right.
Alignment. It's about choices. There are so many things that need to be put together so that we can navigate. It's just not like you just open up your eyes and start navigating. There's some work that needs to be done so that you can get to the Bahamas.
Exactly.
You just don't get on the ship and just wake up like passengers and say, okay, you leave Florida and you end up at the Bahamas. It ain't how it work. It really ain't how it work. You want a successful, happy marriage or a relationship, it just don't happen because you want it. No, as Doctor said, your wants and your needs are totally different.
That's right.
And I think the way in which he shared with us tonight, how you get to that needs and how do you say the symbolicness or the synchronicity
of it
of it, it's essential for longevity. Yeah. Because the struggle is when it's not there.
That's right.
So look, we've just had a great time tonight. If, like I said, you have a questions, reach out to us. Anything, if you want to know more about Clear Journey, go over to clearjourney.org and learn more about what we do over there. But until next time, we're going to call it the night, and we will see you next time on Philosophy of Love. We'll see you then. Talk to you later.
Be safe out here.
All righty.
Thank you for watching this episode. Take a moment to head over to our social media platforms, connect with us, and leave a comment. We'd also love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, head over to clearjourney.org for more great resources. We'll see you next time on the Philosophy of Love podcast.